Welcome. This is the Appian 19.4 Product Announcement Webinar. Again, my name is Malcolm Ross, VP Product Strategy, and I'll be walking through today's content today. And of course, before I begin, I'd love to cover some of the highlights about what's going on in the larger Appian community that you can engage in. As a reminder, I covered this in the previous product webinar with Appian 19.3, but there's still an opportunity to meet with us in some of our physical events around the world. One of those is upcoming in just about 2 weeks on November 21st at the Marriott Marquis here in our local area of Washington, D.C. If you're interested in attending this event, you'll find the registration URL right there, ap.pn2z3scdf. But of course, you can also check this out at appian.com, looking at our events listing. And this, of course, is a great event to engage with our local practitioners here in the Washington, D.C. area. It's focused certainly on our government customers, but as well as many of our commercial customers are welcome to attend, learn about how other customers are using the Appian platform, and of course, some of the latest product updates and innovations going on with Appian. And if you miss us there, of course, we're also going to be out in London coming up in December 3rd through December 4th at the O2. In the O2, if you're not familiar with that, that is near the London City Airport at the Intercontinental Hotel. And of course, Appian Europe is the closest thing we have to our Appian World event. So this is actually a 2-day event. We have some fantastic lineups for you planned here. Of course, there's going to be the usual networking opportunities and training sessions and educational sessions, but also there's hands-on labs on the pre-conference day, December 3rd. And also we have an interesting opportunity to work with one of our sponsoring partners, which is the SWIFT organization. SWIFT, as you may know from the financial arena, as managing bank transfers. We've been working on them on case resolution for bank transfers, a joint solution there, introduced that at Sibos recently in September. And of course, they're going to also have a pre-conference event to learn more about the Swift architecture and how you can leverage Swift with the Appian platform as well. So if you're interested in joining us there, December 3rd through 4th in London, hope to see you there. And of course, you can find the registration there at appian.com/Appian Europe. And of course, if you miss us there, there's also some opportunities in a more social atmosphere to meet up in Chicago and New York City. This, of course, is simply a movie. It's free movie tickets, no sales, just networking. Come check out Star Wars, Rise of the Skywalker. And of course, if you want to check out this or other listings, appian.com/event-listing is where you're going to check out all the opportunities to meet up with Appian practitioners and network with us. And looking forward to, of course, the next year, which is Appian World. So Appian World is, of course, the big global conference. And there's something special about this Appian World because this happens to be the last product announcement webinar of 2019. And the next product announcement webinar will be at Appian World. It will be the 20.1 version. It's actually going to be hosted on the exact same day as Appian World, coming out shortly after the conference there. So if you're wondering what that day is, check us out on March 8th to March 11th. Of course, you can check out more at appianworld.com. But right now, save the date for Appian World 2020. And we've been doing an East Coast, West Coast hop back and forth. So this year we are in San Diego. Next year in March, we're going to be at the DIPLOMAT Beach Resort in Fort Lauderdale, Florida. So really hope to see you there. And right now we also, if you check out the Appian World website, appianworld.com, there's also a call for speakers. So if you'd like to share your experiences using the Appian platform, if you have some interesting use cases you'd like to share, please go check it out, register for a call for speakers. We're happy to consider that and get you into the lineup for this conference. Now, speaking of the lineup, so actually if you notice the dates, there's something interesting there. So there's one more day to the conference. So it is now a 4-day conference, rather a 3-day conference. March 8th is going to be the pre-conference day where we have the typical hands-on labs and partner summits. That's on Sunday, March 8th. And then we'll kick off on Monday, Tuesday, and Wednesday with keynotes and topics for each day. So it's going to be more content, more networking opportunities, more education about AI, process automation, low-code development, solutions, records, is all going to be covered at the conference. So hope to see you there. Registration has some interesting opportunities throughout 2019 to take advantage of pricing opportunities that are available now and probably will expire in January. And speaking of Appian World, we're also happy to announce the Appian World 3rd Annual Appian World Hackathon. So like every year, we like to have a celebrity judges participate inside this. Prior years, we had Kimberly Bryant from Black Girls Code, and the previous year we had Steve Wozniak, the co-founder of Apple. Be happy to announce who we're going to have a little bit later at the hackathon. But right now you want to mark those dates, December 2nd through February 7th. This is the hackathon development and submission period. So if you're familiar with how we run the hackathons before, these are offline hackathons. So you're going to work offline during the period of December 2nd and February 7th. You can think of ideas right now, but we ask that you don't start work until those days to keep it fair. And of course, a lot of the information is going to be coming up. So since we're still about a month away from the actual start date of the hackathon, stay tuned to additional communications and of course at AppianWORLD.com for more information to come. But along what information we have right now is, of course, the winning prizes, $10,000 in cash prizes. Congratulations again to Team Know-It-All. We do allow both team submissions and individual submissions. The only caveat with team submissions is that $5,000 first prize that was divided 4 ways. So if you were comfortable with a little less money, it's not $5,000 for each person. It's $5,000 for either the first place team or individual contributor. The prior year, we did have an individual contributor who won that $5,000 check. And of course, $3,000 for second place and $2,000 for third place. In addition, the conference or the winners will receive free conference passes for Appian World 2021 and promotion through press releases, web, and more opportunities as well. Aside from that, you also want to note the other dates associated with the hackathon. So again, hackathon starts on December 2nd and runs through February 7th. If you don't have your submission done by 5 p.m. on February 7th, that's Eastern time, we will consider it not available. So again, if you want to contribute to this, look at those dates, December 2nd through February 7th. Finals will be notified on February 14th, and live demos at the event will be hosted on March 10th for final judging. Winners announced then on March 11th, 2020. So hope to see you there. And of course, good luck on your hackathon submissions and check out more at AppianWORLD.com. So let's get right to it and talk about Appian 19.4. So Appian 19.4 is, of course, the 4th and final release of 2019. The GA date will be on November 15th, 2019. And for this presentation, we're going to cover the user, low-code developer, administrator, cloud, solutions, and community app market capabilities introduced in Appian 19.4. So let's jump right into the end user capabilities with Appian right now. So first is talking a little bit about the mobile capabilities of Appian. So our mobile capabilities evolve every single quarter along with the overall platform. And there's 2 really important ones to talk about here. The first of which is the app config integration. App config is a standard for enterprise mobility management or EMM platforms, otherwise known also as mobile device management or MDM. So this is a standard approach to all mobile app configuration management, and it streams the deployment of Appian enterprise applications to work securely inside of your EMM platform of choice. Now there's significant changes with our EMM support. Before this version of 19.4, we had 2 versions of the Appian mobile application. One, of course, was the standard Appian mobile app, and the secondary was Appian for BlackBerry, which was the Dynamics platform, their EMM platform. Now, going forward, we will only have one Appian application, which is fully supported by app config, and of course, supported by all the leading EMM platforms that also support app config. First, if you'd like to learn more about app config, a great resource to navigate to is the app config website. So if you go to appconfig.org and you're wondering, is my EMM platform supported? Simply go to the site, go to its members, and you can see all the different members of the app config standard. Now, many of you, though, might be using a product called Microsoft Intune. Microsoft Intune, while it is not listed as a member of app config, they are actually compliant with the app config standard as well. So I encourage you, if you're using Microsoft Intune, we have already tested it with the Intune platform, and it does work with Microsoft Intune as well. So what this means is essentially you no longer need to worry about getting a third-party application or using some other service to wrap those. The Appian app that's inside the Google and Apple app stores fully supports app config and can be worked with these EMM platforms. If you're using the existing BlackBerry Dynamics custom app on the app stores, those will remain listed through mid-2020, around the June-July timeframe of 2020. We will be removing those from the public app stores in that about 6 to 9 month period. So encourage you to migrate from that BlackBerry Dynamics application to the BlackBerry EMM support or app config supported standard in the standard application. So, but look forward to any feedback on this. We're really excited to now support all these. And one of the other last caveats of this is to do with custom branded mobile applications. If you would like also now a custom branded mobile application that works with your specific EMM platform, that's now fully possible. So we can brand the application simply going through the cloud support site for your Appian environment and give to you the custom binary files branded to your specifications with also certification for app config to work with your EMM environment. So really exciting news around supporting for EMM standards. The next one is around mobile tasks and sites. Now, Appian's really expanded our offline capability over the past few quarters with adding the ability to do offline task processing in addition to what we already have with offline actions. So now the task menu, in addition to being available from the Tempo environment, is also available inside the sites experiences on the Appian native mobile application for both iOS and Android. So what this means is that sites users can also easily access their global task list simply by clicking on their profile page, and now they'll see that task menu appear. That task menu, of course, works in the same way as the Tempo tasks, in the sense that it can receive all offline tasks as well. So now you can have a pure sites experience in the native mobile application container, which also includes offline task processing, which was not available before the 19.4 release. Now to configure this, of course, the task list is not turned on by default for each site. Simply go into the site's configuration in the Appian Designer experience, and you'll notice a new configuration option, which says Show Task List Mobile Only. So this is going to work on native mobile devices only, not on the web experience. And of course, you have the option to show the task list either always or never in a pure site basis, or filter that to a specific group, so only certain users will actually see that task drop-down environment. Going into a number of our sale updates, we also introduced a number of small improvements to things like the billboard layout. We automatically adjust the height of the billboard to match the embedded image or video. This works on both web and mobile, as well as the native mobile application. And billboard images with no image or video will use the medium height by default. So again, if you're trying to get that perfect style match where I have a background image, and I don't want to crop the background image based on the medium, short, tall configuration, but I wanted to match the background image exactly, simply choose the auto configuration there, as you see in the configuration pane. In addition, we've done a minor enhancement to the sale buttons, icons, and tooltips. So now we can click or add buttons anywhere inside the Appian Sale UIs. You'll notice that there's a new configuration for including an icon configuration on that. So as I can choose that icon configuration, it's part of the standard library of icons that ships with Appian. In addition, you can also offer a tooltip. So as I type in this tooltip, click here to submit the form. As I hover over that button now, you see that tooltip appear. So it makes it a little bit more intuitive for users to know first through icon awareness what the button does, as well as a pop-up tooltip to explain the function of a button more clearly. In addition, we also introduced some enhancements to the sale gauge component. The gauge component was introduced just recently, I believe in 19.3. And the gauge component now also includes gauges for showing percentages, fractions, and icons. So in this example, I have an icon on the left-hand side showing me my satisfied, and then I maybe want to convert that to a fraction of how many people were unsatisfied. You simply choose the configurations there on the format, percentage, fraction, or icon, and then if it's fraction, in this case, give the extra information what the denominator will be for that fraction. If it's icon, simply choose the icon from the icon library. If you're used to writing sale code, this is supported by two sub-functions, A-band gauge percentage, A-band gauge fraction, and A-band gauge icon, where you specify these additional parameters to modify the behavior of the gauge component. In addition, we also included now a sale progress bar color and style. So the progress bar allows now for a thin styling, which is just going to be a thin line instead of a thick bar. And also you can set the color to be any color code you want. So you can set a hexadecimal color code to have full control over what color you actually want that progress bar to be. So nice styling updates to the progress bar. And then finally, a brand new sale component for tagging. So the new tag component adds visual tags to highlight important attributes of any content you want. Tags may be individually colored or set to the standard of small size or standard size, depending on how much emphasis you want to place on them. Now, tags, though, are not replacing buttons. So these tags do not have link controls on them. They're simply graphical additions to maybe highlight metadata attributes of a form or data that's being input or shown to the user. So very easily configured. You simply add the new tag component. It's going to add a tag field, and underneath the tag field, I can add additional individual tags inside of there. Each of the tags, as you can see, can have a customized color, as well as specific tooltips on the tags, and of course the text that will appear on the tag. Next, we have a series of updates to the records capability, the first of which is a searchable drop-down filter. So many times our customers have drop-down filters on records which have large data sets. These large data sets can be very difficult to navigate in a drop-down. So for any drop-down with more than 11 items on it, we'll automatically provide a text search capability to filter the drop-down control to a specific value. So again, this is automatic, meaning that you do not need to do anything in the record type designer experience to enable this. Any record type drop-down filter with more than 11 items will automatically inherit the search attribute capability. So here I can see I added a SKU search with a large list of SKU items. And now as I simply type in the SKUs, I can rapidly find the specific item I want to filter to based on what SKU value it is. In addition, we also added custom save user filters. So this is on a per user basis. It's not part of the record type design experience, but it allows individual users to set their default filter for any record type list. This applies in both sites and tempo. And of course, each user can now configure that, and every time they come back to it, they'll automatically see that filter applied. Of course, you see the control there for also clearing the filter, so they can also clear that filter if they want to go back to the original default and save that as their default again. So it's a nice feature. Again, you might have one record that satisfies many different needs. Now users can have a predefined filter when they come into it to show just the items that are meaningful to them instead of the full list of content. In addition, in our records configuration, we also now tempo configurations and type visibility. What this is specifically is if you want to show a specific record in tempo or not. So now when you go to the record type designer, you'll see an option there on the left-hand side called tempo in the master detail control. In the detail then of that master control, you'll see a checkbox there that says show this record on the records tab in tempo. If you check that box, it'll be shown by default. So that is the default configuration is checked. But if you'd like to hide one of these record types from tempo, simply uncheck that and users will no longer be able to see that inside the tempo environment. This is a great feature if you want to simplify your record type listing, or if you want record types only to be available in certain sites. You can of course filter that to say turn it off for tempo so that they can only access that record from sites. Or maybe you have records that are really serving as sub-records and I don't want to show those inside the tempo record list, so I can simply turn that off to control that. Here you'll also see the previous feature that was introduced earlier this year around customizing the icon for each record as well as the icon color. And of course these only apply to the record type list inside tempo, not in sites. Going on to the low-code developer experience with Appian, we have a number of important updates to the Appian process environment first. The first of which is opening process models from the start process node. For those of you familiar with Appian's process orchestration capabilities, there's two different ways to layer in a sub-process. One is a synchronous way, which is the sub-process node. The sub-process node has been with the Appian platform for a long time. It is more declarative and prescriptive as far as which sub-process you want to execute, as well as it is more synchronous, so that it will roll up all those data into the analytics. The start process node is used when I need to have dynamic process firings. So if I don't know which process to fire, I want maybe to use a decision table to determine which process to fire, I will use the start process node instead of the sub process node. The start process node, when it does have a declarative setting though, to which process you want to fire, it does now also includes the ability that the sub-process also had to quickly drill into that by simply clicking on the plus symbol. Now this is one of the cooler features introduced in the Appian process capabilities with 19.4, which is moving swim lanes. Swim lanes, of course, are basically groupings, these horizontal or vertical groupings of activities that have meaning to a specific person or role or function. Now with Appian 19.4, you can simply click on the swim lane, select that option to move lanes up or down, and it'll grab all the service nodes, all the activities inside that specific lane and move it together. So it's going to keep the consistency of your entire lane. You no longer need to manually move the swim lane, then manually move all the activities. You can simply select the swim lane, say move lane below. It'll take all the activities in that swim lane, move it down, and keep the look and feel of the overall modeling environment very clean and clear. So it's a great way to kind of make a more logical layout of your process diagram so that the swim lanes all travel together, but it still looks very clear how this process model is laid out. Next is also something with comparing versions of Process Modeler. This can now be launched directly from the Process Modeler. So from the Appian Process Modeler, if you go to File Versions, you can select the version compare of any two process instances, and it'll give you that side-by-side comparison. So I can see, in this case, version 4 versus version 5, and now I see the two different process models. I can see I deleted the email node in that latest version. So great way, easy access to the compare versions right inside the Appian Process Modeler, rather having to jump into the Appian Designer experience. In addition, we also compare process setup in Smart Services tabs now. So in those more subtle details around the setup tabs and Smart Services configurations, there's now even more granular detail of exactly what has changed with process model versions. I can see things like adjustments in the lane height. I can see things like individual configurations on Smart Services, and give all that detail not only in a comparing versions on the same instance, but also between environments. If I compare like my dev to test, it'll give me all that granular detail to compare process model versions. And speaking of comparing versions, we also add in object comparison for test information. This is going to include support for decisions, expression rules, interfaces, integrations, and web APIs where I need to load test cases of my specific application designs. And now the test cases are also stored in the version control system, so I can do a version compare. If someone modifies the test case scenario, I can see exactly what they modified when I compare versions, rather than just the overall application design, which is a pretty cool feature. Many development environments don't include version compare of both, say, JUnit and Java, but since Appian rolls together all the test information inside the design object, it rolls up into one design package, so you can very easily clearly see the differences and all these subtle changes in the overall application design. Also, a very common pattern for our developers is that when you go to look at the object dependency and using the precedence and dependence features, oftentimes I go personally, like I go to look at the dependence of a specific design object, and then I realize, hey, I'd also like to look at the precedence. So instead of having to click out of the design object, back in and click on precedence, you can quickly toggle between view dependence, view precedence right there. So it's a nice, easy toggle, makes it much more intuitive to basically click between the two of these to understand the full impact and usage of this specific design object. We also now format test outputs for rules and integrations to make it more clear exactly what return set was being provided from that expression, rule, or integration. So this obviously allows for some nice intuitive styling. So for example, when we call integration, we already do things like convert a JSON string to a data dictionary. So it gives you that nice embedded or that kind of indented formatting. In addition to the indented formatting, you have those collapse controls now, as well as a highlighting. So you can see values are going to be returned as that bold blue, labels are returned as that darker gray, and navigation structure or hierarchical structure is that light gray. So it makes it much more intuitive to understand exactly the data set that was returned from any expression or integration while building those inside the Appian design experience. A nice usability feature for developers. We also now, a much bigger feature, allows you to deploy across environments. So if you've been tracking Appian throughout 2019, we've been introducing this in iterative steps. In 19.1, we introduced the idea of connected infrastructure so that two environments are aware of each other. In 19.2, we introduced the idea of basically monitoring across environments. So I can, while I'm in dev, I can see my performance of systems in test and production. In 19.3, we introduced the idea of comparing or diffing these back and forth, so I can actually see the difference between my dev site and my test site or production site. And now in 19.4, we're introducing direct one-click deployment. So I can simply quickly push an application package from my development environment to a target test environment using a simple wizard interface. Let's go ahead and take a look at this and see how this actually behaves live. So here I am in my dev server. I have an application here called Support Ticket Management. Let's go ahead and check it out here. And it looks like I have a patch. I'm going to go ahead and clear my patch contents to start this demo fresh. And let's go ahead and just update something. So I'm going to go to my update record here. Go ahead and delete a node, maybe add something. Let's go ahead and just say copy this node. I'm going to drop it inside the line right there. So just doing a little modification here. Go ahead and hit save and publish. So now I have a new version of this process model created that I now want to push over to my other environment. So I can see I'm in my dev server. If I go to my admin console very quickly, I want to remind you where to configure this. Is inside the admin console in the DevOps section, you see the connected infrastructure. So I can see that this dev server is connected to my test server. And that test server, of course, is ready to receive deployments or comparisons or requests from me. To make sure I can receive deployments, I want to check this box to say allow direct deployments from other environments. If you want to disallow that, for example, maybe you don't want to allow that in production, simply check that box off, and that environment can stay connected for monitoring and diff purposes, but not allow for deployments. If I turn that on, then of course this it's going to deploy as a specific named user. So you want to think about that when I deploy to the test environment, it's going to use that user account to actually execute that deployment. So all the process models, rules will inherit his permissions when they actually deploy. So let's go ahead and check this out. We're going to choose this compare and deploy right here. I'm going to choose now the target server. So I just have this one server connected. It's currently active by the checkbox right there. Hit next. Let's say there's a conflict detected. I can see that conflict right here if I want to see the application differences, and I can see exactly what's going on. There's maybe security role change between the two. Let's go ahead and just create a patch inside of here. And I want to create this patch by including this updated process model. So it's showing me exactly what the difference is. And of course, since I'm connected to that other test environment right here, Appian Dev to Appian Test, I can actually see side by side exactly what I'm about to change. So I'm in my dev server. I'm looking to deploy this to my test server. And now let's go ahead and load up my process model diagrams. And I can see, well, here is my dev environment. Here is my test environment. I can see exactly the model that's changed and what actually, and the details around those. So I can see exactly the configurations and all the individual node configurations of what I'm actually adding to this target system. So if I'm comfortable with that, I can also, if there are necessary database scripts, I can also include database scripts. I can target the data source on that test server for which I want to apply and upload any DDLs or SQL scripts I need to actually run. It'll execute those SQL scripts when it does the deployment, so it's going to do the necessary, maybe creating views or updates on the back-end database that synchronize with this specific application version. Let's go back to my objects. I'm going to go ahead and just add this to my patch, just like that. And now I have that green patch. It's in the patch, as you can see. Hit next. It's going to execute this inspection. So it's going to make sure that, hey, there's no missing precedents. If I deploy this, it's going to say, yes, I have all the necessary design objects to make sure that this is going to be deployed properly. Hit next, and here's the coup de grace. Now I can go ahead and hit this deploy button. So I can keep the patch contents. So I can store that locally as well. I simply hit deploy just like this. And there it is. It's done. So of course, if you really like those zip packages, you can download the zip package just like this, or download the export logs just like before. But I can also just jump right to my test site, and from my test site, I can see the design objects, and I can see my support ticket management app and the update record, and there it is, my new copy. So it's been deployed properly. So much more intuitive experience for kind of managing these life cycles. And of course, there's still obviously a need for Jenkins and other environments, but this is pretty big news for managing one-click deployments between environments and synchronizing systems together so they have a nice connectivity of the two environments. So really looking forward to get this in your hands with that 19.4 release on November 15th. So going on, speaking of, we still do have Automated Deployment Manager. So Automated Deployment Manager is the platform we want to use if you're using CI/CD systems like Jenkins. So if you want more information about Automated Deployment Manager, if you still want to use Jenkins for this, obviously Jenkins still serves a purpose because it's going to allow you to do synchronized deployments across much more complex systems, not just Appian. So Appian, of course, can handle database script deployments and application deployments, but maybe you need to also update some other, servlets or some other objects behind the scenes at the same time. You might still want to use Jenkins for those more complex deployments. As well as Jenkins is going to give you more control over maybe governance and other types of ways you might want to think of using these more complex deployment cycles. But of course, you can still download the packages just like before, store them in GitHub if you so choose. Those zip packages are generated from the Appian environment. And if you'd like to learn more about this support, simply go to the community site. You'll type in the word deployment automation. You can quickly find our content in the Appian playbook around how to do automated deployment using Jenkins, as well as in the new 19.4 features, the out-of-the-box one-click deployment. And speaking of deployment and testing, we also have updated our fitness and cucumber libraries support 19.3. So 19.3 is going to be supported if you're using these integration tests, which are going to be automated UI tests using the Selenium WebDriver architecture, and overlaying that fitness or cucumber. You can now use those with 19.3. So going off of DevOps and deployment, we're going to talk a little bit more about integration now. Integration has a number of big updates, we'll say, around the Appian 19.4 release. The first of which is a relatively simple one, is that as we built more and more integrations, packaged no-code integrations to the Appian system, the icons started getting a lot busier, we'll say. And that busyness was often created by the fact that we had to list Microsoft Dynamics twice, one for authorization code, one for client credentials, Salesforce, one for username auth, one for server auth. So we decided to consolidate this into a more intuitive library that simply lists each of these connected systems once and then moves the authorization configurations into the individual connected system configuration. If you already have a Salesforce or Dynamics or SharePoint integration set up, those are going to be no problem. They'll migrate seamlessly to 19.4. It's simply when you set up new integrations, you'll find that you simply go into Salesforce and choose the different authentication structure you want to use when connecting to Salesforce. And the same applies to all the other systems as well. Speaking of authorization, we also introduced the concept of connecting to AWS services using AWS Signature v4 authentication. So this is a proprietary authentication for AWS services. Over 100 AWS services use AWS Sig v4. And now Appian supports this out of the box in a no-code configuration pane. So this specifically applies only to the HTTP connected system, so the standard RESTful API connector. When you go to set up a new HTTP RESTful connection, simply choose AWS Signature version 4 as the authentication structure, and you'll get a nice simple drop-down menu asking for your access keys, secret keys, and other OAuth credential information, and proprietary AWS Sig4 requirements. In addition, we also are happy to announce a brand new no-code integration around DocuSign. So the DocuSign no-code integration makes it super intuitive to connect to DocuSign, send documents or signature, manage envelopes, generate sign URLs, manage docs and envelopes. I know this is really popular with many of our customers and a welcome addition to make it super intuitive to connect to DocuSign from your Appian process models and interfaces and rules. Let's go ahead and take a look at our DocuSign connector and actually build one here. So I'm going to my 19.4 launch. And the first thing you'll notice, of course, if I go and say, well, let's just go to DocuSign connector, go back to that, last modified. You'll notice at first there's two different authentication types. There's authorization code grant or basic authentication. So again, depending on how you choose to connect to DocuSign, both types are supported. When I choose authorization code grant, this is a more OAuth 2.0 based authentication. So I simply give DocuSign my callback URL to complete that handshake with my target system. And of course, I need to find the instance URL, Appian account ID, integration key, and of course my secret key, which you do not get to see. And then of course, authorize that again. So I'm gonna go ahead and authorize that environment. And now I successfully handshake between my Appian environment and DocuSign, and I'm ready to build an integration. Hit new integration, and here we go. I'm going to go ahead and start connecting to these target systems. So what can I do with DocuSign? I can send documents or eSig, create and send envelopes, get envelope definitions, list envelopes, update envelope definitions, list documents of an envelope, update new documents, download documents from an envelope, list events. So all sorts of different configurations I might want to do. Let's go ahead and send a document, send D4 SIG. Let's go ahead and create. And the typical pattern here is I'm going to want to now send a document over to DocuSign and then have that be emailed to someone so that they can receive their signature. So to do this, of course, in a realistic pattern, what I typically do is to create some rule inputs. Like here, I would say, what's the email, what's the name, like this. And I can then configure that just like this. So I can say, well, my email is going to be Ross at Appian Malcolm There we go. And let's go ahead and say, well, I'd map in those rule inputs right here, email, just like that. Signature, to give you a more specific or realistic use case. And of course, I could do the same thing. I'm going to say, please sign this. And you have received this. And of course, if I need these parameters to be dynamic, I would do the same thing where I would create a rule input on the right-hand side to actually map those into these specific dynamic values, and then use these inputs anywhere inside the overall design experience. And then, of course, I can say, let's go ahead and upload a document here. So 19.4 webinar, I think I have a document I can use. So my intelligent automation buyer's guide, I want someone to sign off that they received how to buy intelligent automation software. Hit test requests, just like this. Yeah, let's go see. Fingers crossed, of course, and there it is. I have a success. It sent this to me, and now I can see also the envelope ID. So this is the value typically when working with DocuSign. That's going to be that unique identifier for the envelope that I sent to that person. It's going to be that secure, say, okay, you have the secure envelope. Now we're going to request you to sign it. Let's go ahead and complete this transaction. So I'm going to go ahead and move my screen down here. There's the document I just received. So you can see Malcolm Ross sent you a document. You've received this document for signature. Let's go ahead and review the document. Say I agree, continue. There's my document, the Intelligent Automation Buyer's Guide. I'm going to go ahead and sign this for signature. Hit finish, continue, and we're done. So I can go ahead and I can log in if I so choose, but I'm going to pretty much complete that transaction now with DocuSign. If I go back now to my DocuSign integration, I could take this envelope ID now and say if I want to get the status of this, I could change to say get envelope definition. Maybe if I want to give it the envelope ID, just like this, hit test request, and then I can see the exact status of that request to see if the person has signed that document or not. So expired enabled, let's see, the somewhere it's going to tell me that yes, the person did actually sign this document and the transaction is complete. So very easy way. Again, the goal for all of our integrations is to have that desire that I never need to refer to the API documentation of the target system. So I can very easily see all the methods available to me. As I choose the different methods, it easily gives me a point and click fill out a form to say complete this entire environment. I never got to go to DocuSign to figure out what JSON string I need to send. It's going to make a very intuitive experience for basically building that integration connection to the target system. As I save this, then I can then start to apply this in any process I like. So if I have that process diagram, let's see if I had it here. Go ahead and launch a new process model very quickly. And was I on my test server? Yeah, that's the wrong server. Need to launch it from the right environment. Let's go ahead and do my delete products. So if I need them to verify that, again, to use these, simply choose that call integration just like this. As I choose that call integration, I simply go ahead and look up that integration I have. Send D for SIG just like this. And I'm going to see my data parameters. So just map in those data parameters to my local process variables. And there's my DocuSign integration to say send document for signature. So super intuitive. Really look forward to getting that in your hands. I know it's going to be very popular with many of our customers. The next new connected system we also have is Google Drive. So Google Drive is a great complement to some of the AI services that we previously introduced this year, but as well, of course, you can use this in the same way as a document storage system. Now, the difference also with Google Drive is that you have the full CRUD operations, transferring files, managing folders, but as well, Google Drive has some APIs also for doing CRUDs or search, create, read, update, delete, and search. So you have search for Google Drive also inside the API methods there. So again, it works the same way as all of our other out-of-the-box connected systems. It's going to support a no-code integration. Don't really need to refer to API documentation. It allows you to easily swap back and forth between the two systems. And one of the other unique aspects of our Google Drive integration is managing Google Documents as well. So let's go ahead and check out that. So here's my G Drive integration. Let's go ahead and authorize that again. Go into my authorization. Let's see if that's going to work. App isn't verified. Advanced. Google has a little bit extra safety precautions inside there. Go to Appian trial, allow. So there it is. So now I have my authorization complete. I'll go ahead and use a new integration. And now I can see the different methods. And of course, some of these is not just uploading a file, but also creating specific Google documents. Maybe I want to create a spreadsheet. Create Google, like this. So I say I want to create a Google Doc. I can see also the input text, the file name I want to give it. If I want to say query the drive, I can have the query parameters right there. Uploading files, easily transfer documents from the Appian system up to the G Drive environment, just like that as well. So along with that, we also now include a native Google Translate connected system. This is previously available through the Appian App Market as an add-on, but now is a native part of the Appian product. The only difference between the Google Translate App Market listing and the native Google Translate is the authentication method. This is how I actually connect to the Google Drive environment. So previously, the Google Translate on the App Market used API key authentication. Now we use Google Service Accounts, and we're trying to standardize on Google Service Accounts as a way to connect to all Google Cloud-based environments. So Google Translate specifically includes the ability to detect language of any text, as well as translate text to, I think, over 130 or so. They have a huge number of different languages they can support translation between. Speaking of that authorization change, as I mentioned before, Google Cloud Connect systems now use Google Service Account authorization. This applies to Google Translate, Google Drive, Google Vision, Google Natural Language. The existing ones, Google Vision and Natural Language, have also been updated to support service account authentication. So service account authentication, of course, is a standard now. If you already had API key authentication to these Google services, of course, those will continue to work. You can also modify the key, no problem. But if you choose to create a new connected system, it will drive you towards setting up a service account authentication instead of an API key authentication. If you'd like to take advantage of a lot of these Google AI services, I'd like to remind you that the Appian AI offering automatically bundles a lot of these as part of the Appian product. So you do not need to sign up with Google. You can actually sign up directly with Appian if you simply contact your Appian account executive or support, and you'll receive API keys or service account authentication to natural language processing, Google Translate, Vision, and cloud storage. And when you sign up via Appian instead of Google, you receive up to 10 times the number of services offered than the GCP free tier. So that just means 10 times the number of service calls up to that, depending on the specific AI transaction. And finally, we also enabled Google domain-wide delegations. Google domain-wide delegation is an attribute of service accounts, which allows integration designers to use G Suite users to impersonate when Google service account authentication is used. So while you're inside the service account management console, as you can see here on the right-hand side, there's an option there that says checkbox to enable G Suite domain-wide delegation. When that's enabled, you'll have this new option to appear in the connected system that says impersonate a specific G Suite domain user. So this allows a domain admin to set up, say, domain-wide authentication or domain-wide impersonation. And then when they're setting up the connected system, I can tell it to impersonate a specific user when connecting to that target environment. And then finally, on integrations, we also included the ability to have detailed performance logging for integrations. This thing comes in the form of two new log files, integration summary.csv and integration details.csv. This summarizes how integrations are performing overall, as well as individual service calls and tracing. It improves the debugging on individual calls inside the environment. So moving on to administrator, we have one important update around the administration features, which is the health check data collection and scheduling. Health check now is embedded inside the Appian admin console, allows you to set up, schedule, track, and run health check directly from Appian. Health check itself has not changed at all as far as the performance measures it tracks and the specific log files it dives into and the results it returns. Just the use of it now has been integrated into the Appian experience. So to access this, you simply go to, let's pop over. I'm going to go back to my design environment, go to the admin console. And back inside that DevOps area, you'll see a new option called Health Check. Inside Health Check, you're going to say, well, let's get started. I want to say get started. It's going to give you this warning that says Health Check collects information about your application's environment and shares it with Appian in order to generate your health check reports. You do need to acknowledge that, hey, we're going to collect this information. It's similar to, say, when you sign up for Microsoft Office and it says, do you want to share performance information back with that Microsoft? It's going to be pretty anonymized, when there's no detail from your databases inside of there exactly what's going on that's exposed to us at all. We're really kind of looking at the log files and then looking at the healthier environment and trying to give you feedback on what you could do to maybe improve that health. So as you say yes, I now have some simple health check configurations. What is your community login so I can authenticate and pass the health check data up to the support environment? Do I want to run this on a scheduled basis? I can say automatically run this at a certain day and time and schedule it, say, every Thursday or a specific day of the week. And of course, is this a production environment or not? Yes or no? And do I want to report viewers? So add users to the health check viewers group. So these users will be able to see who actually the health check results. They access those results by posting at the tempo, and those users will be included inside the tempo post so they can actually see the results of the health check. But the admin is the only person who has access to actually see the scheduled runs and configure the scheduled running of as well. So it's a really exciting feature. Encourage everyone to be using health check. It's going to give you very important information on the health of your overall environment. It's going to give you nice feedback to know how you can improve your overall Appian experience. Now, speaking of Appian overall, the Appian Cloud updates we have are twofold. The first of which is a new Appian Cloud region in Bahrain. So customers in the Middle East now have the Bahrain region to choose from, with also support for high availability. The high availability offering simply means that there are up to 3 different data centers in Bahrain to host the Appian product, and we provide triple redundancy of that environment with an SLA of a 15-minute RTO and 1-minute RPO to make sure that data is continuously operating, their system's continuously operating in that region. In addition, our premier support customers to Appian Cloud are going to receive a new Cloud Insights dashboard. This allows you to track your Appian Cloud site performance, such as average request response time, percentage requests under 3 seconds, number of requests, heap memory usage, average CPU utilization, used disk space as well. We try to provide what we consider actionable information that you can see and then also make decisions on as far as how much data you choose to store in process analytics or how much throughput you have inside the system. Things that you can actually take action on to actually improve the overall performance environment. Many of our customers submit support tickets to get access to information. Now we're providing it on demand to all of our Appian Cloud registered support contacts. So the people who have access to this are the people who are going to be also able to, say, control the scheduling of upgrades of your Appian Cloud environment. Those are the people who also receive access to the Appian Cloud Insights environment. Let's take a look at this in action. So first of which, when you go to your community environment, log into Forum, from the Forum environment, you'll see the Appian Cloud Insights site. Inside Appian Cloud Insights, you'll see 2 tabs. The first of which is the Environments tab. The Environments tab allows you to see all of your environments that you have access to or you're controlling. I can see if they're currently configured for high availability and what size they are. So how much disk space, memory, and CPU utilization is currently allocated, as well as the hosting region of those environments and version. Of course, I can go to my Metrics tab, and from Metrics, I can also see specific statistics on these sites. So if I want to include, say, multiple sites, I can say compare 2 together. This is a great way to see, hey, I signed up for Appian HA, high availability, which promises to be load balancing all my requests across all those environments. You can actually see the load balancing in action by seeing, say, CPU utilization being spread evenly across all the different environments. So if I drill in, I can simply drill in by dragging and dropping to drill into specific time windows, just like this. I also can control the time window to say, I'd like to see maybe October 31st, say previous, say 14 days, like this. So I can very easily filter to specific time periods of the entire environment. I think it's going to be up to about 365 days of tracking of the overall performance of the entire system. So a great way, again, to self-service access detailed metrics. If you'd like to know exactly how these metrics are meaningful to your environment, simply go to Show Metrics Info in each of these charts. It's going to give you a nice explanation of exactly what that metric means and how you can maybe toggle that metric by changing configurations in your environment as well. So again, this is going to be available to Appian Premier customers, Premier support customers only. Look forward to in 2020 how we can also additionally roll this out to maybe even more customers. Going on to our solutions updates, we have 2 solutions to talk about this iteration. First is the Robotic Workforce Manager. Robotic Workforce Manager was introduced in Appian 19.2 and of course introduced initially for support for Blue Prism. Now with Appian 19.4, Robotic Workforce Manager also works across UiPath. So it's going to be supported in Appian 19.1 or higher, the solution is, as well as UiPath 19.4 and higher are going to be supported. What this allows you to do is manage the deployment lifecycle of your robotic processes. So from concept to actual implementation, we're going to allow you to see the whole life cycle. Allows you to control those individual robotic processes and robots. So as things execute across your robotic workforce, I can get in there and track the performance and optimization of those individual robotic processes, as well as, more importantly, allow for business users directly self-serve and initiate processes inside the system. So they can receive Appian forms that allow to fill in information and then run those robotic processes. And then also any exceptions that occur inside those RPA bots can directly kick into Appian case resolution. Now, in addition to working across UiPath 19.4 or higher, we also allow for a mix of different robotic environments to be mixed into a single robotic workforce control center. So many of our customers have adopted not one, but many different RPA platforms, and many may be different versions of the same RPA platform. So for example, if you have 2, 3 different Blue Prism servers mixed with, say, 2 or 3 different UiPath servers, you can consolidate all the metrics across all those systems into a single dashboard environment. So this allows for RPA deployment management across multiple systems and a control center across all those environments. What this looks like is something like this, where when I see my robotic processes running, I can see exactly which tool is being used to run these. So I can see Blue Prism, UiPath, Blue Prism, Blue Prism. I can also measure the performance of each of these and compare them against each other as well. So it allows you to get total visibility into your full robotic workforce across all your different platforms and instances, track and control robotic processes across UiPath and Blue Prism, and automate the work handoffs between humans and robots no matter which platform is running your robotic workforce. Going into also the Intelligent Contact Center offering, we have some really unique introductions here. The first of which is a component plugin for records and related actions. Specifically with the navigation structure of the Intelligent Contact Center with Appian, when I receive an inbound call, I don't necessarily know what record the person wants to see until I actually communicate with that customer. So there's no master detail navigation to go to specific records. The master detail navigation is more dynamic. So to support this, we now, with the ICC offering, allow for a record and related actions component plugin. When the user, say, calls me, it'll automatically look up that person and allow you to embed any record view along with the related action access directly inside the dashboard concept. So this is a component plugin, which means that context can be given to the component plugin dynamically to automatically change the record view based on the communication. A very cool feature. I'm sure there'll be use cases even outside of the ICC for this as well. But for now, with 19.4, this is only available with the ICC offering. In addition, along with this, we've also just about completed all the Genesys Pure Engage omnichannel communication work. So this allows for capabilities of Genesys Pure Engage, which includes real-time phone conversations, SMS, and chat capabilities. So right now, we're about 95% parity between Genesys Pure Engage and Twilio as far as communication between the platforms and all the more advanced features, such as call, hold, transfer, things like this. I believe the only feature that's missing right now is the call transfer capabilities on Genesys Pure Engage, so a very small gap window between the two. In addition, the Genesys component also includes a browser singleton, which is going to ensure that the call center workers are working in an active browser session. This ensures the data integrity of the overall experience. So for example, if a call center agent opens up multiple windows, we're going to make sure that those other windows don't, say, restart an entire navigation structure in the Sail UI. So when they open up those additional windows, they'll get this error message that says, unable to load communication. Please refresh this page, activate the controls that will take control, or go back to your active session window because it's currently active in a different window. We also made updates to the ICC report dashboard where individual agents now display key details. We aggregate by hour, day, week, or month on agent performance, as well as a queue report showing omnichannel metrics within particular queues. And as well, the manager dashboard enhancements allow for improved functionality between managers, such as new filtering options and quick queue information, such as seeing exactly what's inside the queue and jumping into those calls if necessary when I'm overseeing a large call center. And then finally, we also introduced Twilio chat and SMS blind transfer. So specifically what this is when I receive an SMS or inbound chat, I need to often transfer to another queue. Rather than a specific targeted agent, which was a previous feature, we now allow them to transfer to, say, a specific group queue to route that to maybe a queue to wait inside another agent to pick it up. Any transfer and chat history will, of course, be stored along with the overall ICC experience with a nice transaction log of all customer communications. And then finally, let's talk about Appian Community and App Market. The first of which is the expansion of A scores for all. So prior to Appian 19.4, A scores were reserved for simply the practitioners of our partners. Now A score certification is available to any customers, partners, or independent developers. To see more about this, if you go to community.appian.com, you'll see a banner right there around A scores for all. You can click right in there to learn more about how to get an A score if you're a customer who's practicing Appian or just an individual developer and I'd like to get that A score certification as well. You simply click on that in community.appian.com to learn more about how to apply that A score certification to your personal profile. Of course, A scores provide certification of developers across training and project experience. It's a way to record all the projects you've worked on as well as what training classes you've taken. In addition, I'd like to remind everyone that the Appian App Market is available for accessing component plugins and extensions to the Appian platform. And I'd also like to thank everyone for your continued submissions. We had lots of good submissions over the past quarter, but I'd like to remind everyone that if you're building new component plugins or connected systems, the best thing to do is to look at the design patterns that Appian's enacting our own component plugins and connected systems, such as the recent DocuSign and Google Drive integration. So follow these product patterns. When I set up an authorization, I should be able to verify the authorization on authentication in a connected system before moving on to the integration. A good design pattern, for example. Also, the goal for any connected system should be it's intuitive, complete, and well documented. That means when I'm in the specific configuration section, I should not need to refer to API documentation of a target system to know what to do. So follow these design patterns, encourage you, make those updates to submissions if you've done those recently, that if maybe you require more intuitive flow, that's always very welcome and appreciated. And that is it for Appian 19.4. Thank everyone for joining the product webinar today. Again, appreciate if you have any of those feedback, feel free to share there on Gartner peer reviews, and hope to see you again at the Appian 20.1 product announcement webinar, which will be held live during Appian World on March 8th through 11th. So hope to see you there. And thanks everyone. Have a great day.